If you've ever been told that matcha is the ultimate super drink, antioxidant rich, brain boosting, fat burning even, then believe it or not, you're actually not wrong. But what if I told you that this glowing green powder isn't all sunshine and samurai ceremonies? There's a reason some experts are starting to raise their eyebrows about matcha. Not because it's a health scam, but because how you drink it, how much you drink, and what your body needs all matter and play a role. So before you sip your matcha latte, there are a few things that you really need to know, especially if you care about your gut, your energy, and your hormones, and of course your overall health too. So by the end of this video, you'll know whether matcha deserves a place in your routine or if it's secretly undermining some of the very things that you're working really hard to fix. All right, but first, welcome to my channel. I'm Bonnie, the Renegade Dietitian. If you're new here, I take more of a functional, integrative approach to health rather than the standard Western way. So here you're gonna get health, nutrition, and lifestyle hacks backed by evidence and research wherever possible, but also through a skeptical and curiosity-driven view, including the parts that the industry doesn't usually highlight. So if you're curious about what's really going on with your food and your health, then don't forget to subscribe and stick around. All right, let's get into the video. So I'm hoping that this time actually works. This is my second time recording the entire video because this little genius over here forgot to actually test the mics first before recording the entire thing and then realizing that they weren't working properly and there was a whole bunch of static. I don't even know what was going on, to be honest. Lesson learnt. But I'm also hoping that you can't hear the howling wind outside and rain because it is very stormy here today. So hopefully not, and let's fingers crossed that this goes smoothly this time. All right, so firstly, what is matcha? Matcha? I literally had to ask ChatGPT like 5 times how to say matcha because I think I'd been saying it matcha, but I think it said it was matcha. We're gonna try and say matcha. If I say matcha, please don't come at me. All right, so what is matcha and why is it different? So matcha is a finely ground powder of specifically grown green tea, or green tea leaves, should I say. So unlike steeped tea, where you actually discard the leaves, matcha is consumed whole. So it's giving you much more of a concentrated dose of antioxidants and vitamins and minerals and other bioactive compounds because of that. So it's also shade grown, which increases its levels of chlorophyll and also L-theanine, which is one of the key perks of matcha, is that it has L-theanine in it. And it's also known for being exceptionally high in catechins, or catechins, pretty sure it's catechins, especially epigallocatechin gallate, EGCG, that's what I'm going to call it, a compound with powerful antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. So matcha has 3 times more catechins than regular green tea, for example. Now it also contains more caffeine and more theanine and also more beneficial flavonoids like quercetin, for example, and rutin. So that's essentially what matcha is. So now let's go through some of the science-backed benefits of it. So we'll start with the positives, and there actually are a lot of them, which is amazing. Starting with antioxidant power. So as you would have heard before, matcha's EGCG content helps neutralize free radicals, which essentially means less oxidative stress and less inflammation in the body. So quercetin and rutin also contribute to cellular protection and blood vessel health alongside insulin sensitivity. So basically, in simple terms, all of that means is that this helps your body fight damage and stay younger for longer, really, and also lowers your risk of certain diseases like cancer and diabetes. Then we have the metabolic boost that matcha can give. So the caffeine and the catechins in the matcha support thermogenesis, so your body's fat burning process. So studies show that matcha can reduce body fat, improve cholesterol levels, or profiles, and help with blood sugar regulation. So basically, it can help you burn fat more efficiently, balance your energy levels, and protect your heart health. And next we have brain function. So the unique combination of caffeine and L-theanine provides what many refer to as calm focus. So improved alertness without the crash or the jitters that you can sometimes get with coffee. So you basically feel more focused and clear-headed without any of the anxious buzz, especially for those who can't tolerate coffee based on their genetics, for example, because it does have a genetic component to it as to how you react. So you may find that you don't get that with matcha because of the L-theanine. Now, it's also been shown to have mental health benefits. So studies have linked matcha to reduced anxiety, lower cortisol levels, and improved stress and resilience, especially when consumed regularly. So in other words, it can help you feel calmer and more emotionally balanced under stressful situations or when you're feeling stressed, which I mean, I think most of us could do with a little bit of that, right? Now, this next one really surprised me, which is exercise recovery. So one clinical trial found that men doing resistance-based training while drinking matcha actually gained more muscle and recovered faster, and possibly due to matcha's anti-inflammatory effect and also the microbiome enhancing effect that it can have as well. So based on that, this means that it potentially could support faster recovery and better results from your workouts, although it is early days with that. And then we also have potential anti-cancer effects. So preclinical studies show that matcha and its compounds can potentially inhibit cancer cell growth and promote apoptosis, so killing of the cell. These effects have not yet been confirmed in human trials though, so I do want to make that clear. But they're still promising nonetheless. So we can't say as of yet that it cures anything, but it may support your body's natural defense systems. Then the next benefit of matcha is heart, immune, and gut health. So matcha's polyphenols support cardiovascular function, reduce oxidative stress, may enhance immunity, and positively alter your gut microbiome too. So the benefit of that is it basically means better circulation and stronger immunity and healthier digestion, which are all key things for long-term health. All right, so as I said, some of those are in early stages in terms of the body of evidence to back them, but it's still a pretty dang amazing list if you ask me. And there are definitely a few on there that I didn't expect when I was doing my research. Okay, so that is some of the key benefits that matcha potentially can have, but how you prepare and drink your matcha can make a huge difference in whether it's a health boost or a sugar bomb. So if you are loading up your matcha with syrupy sweeteners and flavored powders or tons of dairy and sugar, then you're undermining many of the benefits that you're drinking it for. So personally, I love having my matcha iced, and I like to mix it with coconut water and a dash of coconut milk. That combo, honestly, it tastes incredible, and that is coming from someone who quite literally hated matcha when I first tried it. I thought it tasted like a combination of grass mixed with dirt and a little bit of water. So don't ask me what changed. I had a sip of my friend's one day and I was like, whoa, okay, this is not nearly as bad as I remember the first time I tried it. And I gave it another go after that, and I've been hooked ever since. But in saying that, we have the matcha, like the cafe you buy it from, the source of it or the type of matcha they use makes a huge difference. Like I have tried quite a few now, and there have been some terrible ones and there have been some delicious ones. So it actually really makes a huge difference as to what matcha you're trying or where it's from and the type of matcha as well. Just saying. But adding that coconut water to it, the reason I love doing that is because it means it's naturally sweet and it doesn't need to have any added sugar or artificial sweeteners or anything like that in there. And it gives you hydration, electrolytes, and the smooth lit and the benefits that matcha is known for. So if you find that you have to add a whole bunch of sweeteners to enjoy your matcha, then it might be worth finding a better grade of matcha with a more natural umami flavor to it, or reconsidering if it's doing your health any favors. And that's not to say that you have to have it exactly like how I just said. Some people maybe don't like coconut water or coconut milk, and that is fine. You can use something that suits your taste buds. I'm just saying, I know a few people who, they'll only drink it if it's packed full of all these syrups and other things, and kind of defeats the purpose because it's supposed to be good for your health in so many different ways, like blood sugar regulation for one of them, and you're packing it full of sugar, kind of counterproductive really. That's just my 2 cents on that anyway. All right, now let's talk about some of the caveats of matcha. So matcha isn't dangerous for most people, but there are some evidence-based reasons that you might want to moderate or be mindful of your intake of it. So starting with the most obvious of them all, which is caffeine sensitivity. So 1 cup of matcha typically contains between 70 to 80 milligrams of caffeine. That can differ a lot, but that's just the average usually. Now that is less than coffee, but it is still a significant amount, especially if you are caffeine sensitive, or if you're prone to anxiety or insomnia even, or you have high blood pressure. So whilst the L-theanine can actually help to reduce the jitters, like I mentioned earlier, that you often get with coffee, it can still cause symptoms in super sensitive individuals, or if you drink a lot of it. Now the next one I want to mention is a big one, and that is iron absorption. So matcha's tannins can inhibit non-heme iron absorption. So if you are vegan or you have low ferritin or you're prone to anemia, for example, avoid having matcha with any iron-rich meals. And ideally you want to be having it at least 1 to 2 hours away from those meals or meals at all, and don't pair it with your iron supplement because non-heme iron in itself is quite poorly absorbed, and if you're adding things that inhibit the absorption further, you're not going to be absorbing very much at all, if anything, from that food. Right, now let's talk drug interactions. So another thing to be aware of with matcha is that because it contains vitamin K, it can counteract blood thinning medications, for example, like warfarin. So if you are on any anticoagulants or blood thinners, then talk to your doctor before drinking matcha, especially if you're going to be drinking it regularly. And it's not to say that you can't have it, but the dose of your medication will need to be altered to account for that. Another thing to be aware of is liver safety at high doses, because Matcha itself is, like I said, it's genuinely safe, but green tea extracts in high doses have been linked to liver toxicity or cause liver toxicity in rare cases. So you want to stick to 1 to 3 cups per day and avoid concentrated supplements unless supervised. And then we have heavy metals and contaminants, which I feel like are in so many things these days, but matcha especially, it absorbs minerals from the soil, including heavy metals like lead or cadmium in some cases. So you always want to make sure that you are buying from reputable brands, preferably organic and even Japanese sourced, and look for third-party testing that is available to the public too. Like, ask for the results if you need to, because I feel like you can't be too careful these days. People often say they get it tested and they don't actually, or they can't provide you with any evidence of the testing. And sometimes that might be because they've actually found levels of, these heavy metals in it and don't want to disclose that to you. So always ask for the results if you can. All right, next up we have gut irritation. So if you drink matcha on an empty stomach and experience nausea or stomach discomfort or anything along those lines, then it's likely from the tannins and the caffeine in it. So if that is you, then try having it with a small snack first, or have a meal and then have your matcha, and you might find that those side effects go away. Just something to be aware of anyway. Okay, so those are some of the main caveats to consider when it comes to matcha. There are a few others like kidney stones and things like that, which I'm gonna shortly provide you with a list. I'll read them all out and I'll put them on the screen so you can screenshot it if you want to. But yeah, these are just some of the main ones. Now I also want to talk about matcha compared to coffee and if one is better than the other, but I'm just going to go through this briefly. So both matcha and coffee have their benefits, but here is how they compare. So caffeine, of course, coffee hits harder with usually around 80 to 120 milligrams per cup versus matcha's 70 to 80 milligram. Now, matcha's L-theanine levels help to smooth the energy curve, while coffee can actually spike cortisol and anxiety in some. Now, in terms of the antioxidant profile, matcha is richer in EGCG, quercetin, and vitamin C, whereas coffee has chlorogenic acids, antioxidants. Both are good, but matcha includes more nutrients and some fiber in there as well. And then in terms of stress and focus, matcha is better for calm alertness, like I mentioned earlier, whereas coffee can boost performance, but also raise those stress hormones. Now, digestive impact, coffee is actually more acidic and therefore can irritate the gut a little more, whereas matcha is gentler, though the tannins can actually constipate some. So both have their pros and cons there. So the bottom line really is that both drinks can be healthy, depending on how you react to them, of course, but matcha may be better for those looking for things like brain clarity without the anxiety, or for those who are wanting that extra antioxidant support that it provides, but coffee has its own compelling science behind it as well. I personally like to have both, so most days I usually tend to go for the coffee because it's easier to make at home at least, or not necessarily easier, but I have a coffee machine that kind of does the job for me, so it's quicker in that respect where, you've got to whisk the matcha and then you've got to get the ice out of the freezer, which lazy healthy girl, remember, so that's effort for me in itself, and then mix it with the coconut water and the milk. So I tend to go for coffees most days, but I do have my own matcha here that I make, not my own, like I buy my own and make my own. Especially I find it really nice in the afternoon, so I don't have caffeine, or I try not to past 2 o'clock because it affects my sleep, but I like to have a matcha usually around 1 o'clock. And I find that I just react better to it than having coffee at that time for some reason. So that's usually what I do. Have a bit of both. All right, so as I mentioned before, I'm going to give you a quick list of some of the things that you need to be aware of and who matcha maybe isn't ideal for. So people with iron deficiency anemia, particularly if you're vegan or vegetarian because of that non-heme iron, those on warfarin or other blood thinners, people with caffeine sensitivity or panic disorder or insomnia, individuals with liver disease or taking hepatotoxic medications, pregnant and breastfeeding women, which I didn't mention before, but that's due to the caffeine and folate absorption, people with GERD or GORD, so gastroesophageal reflux disease, or sensitive stomachs, kids or people with kidney stones due to the oxalate content in it. And I think that's most of it that I can remember. So if any of that applies to you, it doesn't mean that matcha is off limits, but it just means that you should probably talk to your healthcare provider first and or monitor your body's response and keep your intake moderate. So here's the final word on matcha. Matcha is one of the most researched, maybe not the most, but it's well researched and it's a powerful functional drink that is available or readily available around the world, and it supports metabolic health and cognitive clarity and stress levels or stress resilience and antioxidant defense, among other things. But it's also not a free pass, so you don't want to overdo it. Watch how you prepare it as well and listen to your body as always. So if you love it like I do now, then enjoy it smartly and choose clean, high quality matcha. Most importantly, skip the sugary syrup if you can, and try my favorite version too, the iced matcha with coconut water and a dash of coconut milk. I'd love to hear actually if any of you do try that who haven't tried that before. Comment below, let me know how you find it or what your go-to combo is for matcha. I'm always open to trying something new. All right, so if you found this video helpful, then please give it a like and share it with a matcha-loving friend of yours. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more science-backed insights into nutrition and health and all things optimal living. All right, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.